Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another video. Today, I'm going to be giving you my NBA award picks. I know it's been a little while. I know a lot of people have already put these out, but to be honest, I've just gone so back and forth on so many of these awards that I'm not really confident in a lot of these picks. There are some that I'm more confident than others, but overall, I think there's only two that I'm like completely sold on. A couple of days ago, I was on Snapback Sports Podcast, which I retweeted the link to that if you do want to go check it out on my Twitter. But it was really fun, and they asked me about my NBA award picks, and I gave them to them. And like two or three of them have changed since that podcast, which was 2 days ago. So it's just, I really can't make my mind up on a lot of these, but I think I'm finally ready to kind of say what I'm thinking. You know, maybe these change in a few more days, but I'm feeling decent about my picks, so I'm going to go ahead and get this video out to y'all before the playoffs officially start. I'm going to start off with kind of the easier ones and move into the more debated ones. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, helps me out a ton, and also let me know what your award picks are, because I'm super curious. This has been the most contested award season that I can remember as an NBA fan, so I'm super curious as to what y'all have to say, so make sure to let me know. But we're going to start off, I think 6th man of the year is pretty much a wash. I'm sure most of you agree with me. It's Tyler Hero. He was the most important offensive player a lot of nights for the Miami Heat this season, a 1 seed. He was their closer a lot of games. Whenever they needed offense, they needed a big bucket, they went to Tyler Hero. He had the best season of his career, bouncing back from what was, to a lot of people, a disappointing year last year after he went off in the bubble. I feel like a lot of people kind of got unrealistic expectations for him last year because of his bubble play, but overall, I think Tyler Hero has now kind of recentered on that, and he looks to be a really great scorer going forward. He was super critical to the Heat this season. I don't think they're the 1 seed or even close to it without him. He was that important to that team. Honorable mentions go to Kevin Love and Cam Johnson, who were both very important to their teams. Kevin Love was a big reason why the Cavaliers were able to have a lot of success before injuries really just derailed their whole season. And then for Cam Johnson, he was just able to kind of keep the Suns afloat when they were missing some guys. He had some crazy scoring outings as well. Just really a stabilizing force off of the bench. A big reason also why the Suns are at the win total that they are as the 1 seed and overall the best team in the NBA through this point in the season. Moving on to Coach of the Year, which is the other one I feel pretty good about. It's Monty Williams, in my eyes. Leading the Phoenix Suns to the best record in franchise history, I think has to go a long way for this award. I think he probably could have, if maybe should have gotten it last season, but he didn't. He has to get it this year. It would be super disrespectful, I think, to what he has done with this team to give it to someone else. Monty Williams has been incredible, with the Suns missing Chris Paul for a lengthy period of time and only losing a few games over the course of that span, missing guys like Ayton, key bench players at times as well. It didn't matter. The Suns continued to keep rolling. They won 20 games in a row at one point. This Suns team was absolutely unstoppable. They were a unit, and in big part due to the talents of Monty Williams, what he brings to this team as a coach. To me, he's one of the best coaches in the league, and I think he is deserving of that acknowledgement as the Coach of the Year. Honorable mentions do go to Taylor Jenkins and Erik Spoelstra. Taylor Jenkins was phenomenal with the Grizzlies this year, kind of a similar situation where, despite a star player in Ja Morant missing a decent bit of time, the Grizzlies really did not miss a beat without him, which I think both speaks to the depth of the team, but to Taylor Jenkins, how he kind of instilled a next man up mentality in the Grizzlies, which I think is huge for that team, for a young team to really kind of push on without their leader and their all-star, maybe even superstar caliber player in Ja Morant. It was huge for them, and I think he really is one of the biggest reasons why they are where they are. They had a lot of kind of personnel switching in the offseason too, a lot of role adjustment, and it's all been super seamless. Taylor Jenkins, I do think at some point could win this award, but to me, I think Monty would just kind of edges him out a little bit, and then Spoelstra dealing with a lot of injuries for the Heat, missing Oladipo the whole season as a bench piece, missing some guys in and out of the lineup due to COVID, and just injuries to like Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler missed some time, if I'm remembering correctly, but either way, getting the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, which was very tough this season despite a bunch of issues, it should go a long way to showing why Erik Spoelstra is probably the best coach in the NBA if I had to pick one, so shout out to him. All right, those are the two easier ones out of the way, I would say. Moving on beyond that, it's tough. And so the next one I think I want to go to is Most Improved Player. And for me, there are two guys that could win this award: Jordan Poole or Ja Morant. John Morant, of course, made the leap from kind of like, oh, like, young star to legit, like, all NBA potentially first teamer, MVP candidate for a lot of the season for some people. He made this crazy leap, and I think that should absolutely be acknowledged. What he has done for this team, the way that he has improved not only his play, but the play of the others around him through his playmaking. He's just one of the most electric players in the league, and he really has kind of taken the league by storm. What he's done, career highs in basically every stat you can think of, best team in the division, second in the conference. Just the Grizzlies really did everything that a lot of people didn't expect them to do this year. I thought John Morant was going to take that all-star leap. He completely skipped that all-star leap and went straight to like top 15 player in the league. What he has done has been absolutely incredible. And then Jordan Poole, going from a guy who was kind of like seen as a G leaguer and kind of like more like, oh, a decent bench piece, to the end of last season showing what he might be capable of, to this year going from like, at the beginning of the year, a lot of people looked at him as maybe the sixth man of the year when Klay Thompson came back, but Klay took a while to come back. And in his absence, and even without Steph Curry at the end of the year, Jordan Poole went on that stretch of 20-point per game performances, just going crazy, being a great scorer and helping keep the team afloat without Steph Curry for a long period of time. It was super impressive, and I've gone back and forth. I've said John Morant for a lot of the time. Recently, I've been thinking maybe a little more Jordan Poole, and I think that's who I've settled on. I think my most improved player is Jordan Poole. John Morant was incredible, and I do think that if John Morant wins this award, he 100% deserves it. I think either of them do. But for me personally, Jordan Poole being a guy who last season was in the G League to now being a guy that could put up 20 almost any night, keeping one of the best teams in the Western Conference afloat without Steph Curry, I think it's huge. I think the way that he stepped up for the team, the way that he went from looked at as one of like the most inefficient and kind of just really not a long-term player in this league in a lot of people's eyes in that first season. And even last year, there were a lot of question marks about him until about the last portion of the season, to this year being given that role and telling, go ahead, like make the most of it, and completely not just like getting more shots, but taking over, being more aggressive, going out and being one of the better players on that team. I think Jordan Poole deserves it. He is my pick for most improved player. Beyond that, we've got the three really tough ones: Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Most Valuable Player. I'm going to start off, I think, with Rookie of the Year. This is another one that I've been super back and forth on. Mobley was my pick probably the entire season, right up until the end, where I kind of started to falter a little bit. I wasn't really sure because he went out with injury, which I think took away a little bit from him. And you had great play from like Cade Cunningham and Scotty Barnes, who those three guys really do form the trio of contenders for this award. For me, I'm going to go Scotty Barnes. It is very tough. I think any three of those guys are deserving. Mobley has been my pick pretty much all season. Scotty is just a guy that I've kind of leaned towards recently, right at the end of the year. But I just think what Scotty did with that team, I'm not huge into I don't think team success necessarily has to be the metric for a Rookie of the Year, because a lot of great rookies get drafted to bad teams. You see that with Cade Cunningham, who I think is very deserving of consideration for the award as well. It's not necessarily the team success, it's just the way that Scotty Barnes kind of stepped into the role that they needed him to do it and played it so great. He had that great stretch to start the season, was like solid in the middle, and then was great to finish it out. I just feel like for me, he was the most consistent rookie across the season. It's kind of a similar situation with the whole LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards thing from last year, where LaMelo was a little more consistent, but Anthony Edwards was maybe better in the last half of the season. It kind of really is a question of, do you value what happened more recently, like or the whole body of work? What is your opinion? For me, I think Scotty Barnes takes the cake. Statistically, he was phenomenal, had a lot of decent scoring performances, great playmaking, rebounding, doing all the little things, the hustle plays for a Raptors team that he played a big role on them. It's not just their team success. He played a really big role in what they did this season. His just the way that he kind of brings that energy and effort to the team. His defense is absolutely ridiculous for a rookie. Same with Mobley, of course. But I think just all the little things that Scotty Barnes does leads me to pick him to be my Rookie of the Year. Mobley and Cade, like I mentioned, honorable mentions. Mobley, one of the better defensive rookies we've seen in a really long time. I just think in the end that time that he missed at the end in a little bit of a weak stretch towards the end is going to it just kind of overall pushed me away a little bit. Maybe my Scotty Barnes pick is recency bias, but I am going to go Barnes. And then Cade, I think his stretch at the beginning of the season was a little too rough. He was phenomenal at the end of the season. I just don't think he was as consistent as those other two guys, and in particular, Scotty Barnes, who I've taken the award. Next, I'm going to do Defensive Player of the Year. This is one that I've got no idea. This one, I have chosen like 5 different guys over the course of this time, but I think I've settled on one finally. And like I said, there were probably like 5 or 6 guys that can win this award, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. For me, my Defensive Player of the Year is Mikal Bridges. I almost said Miles Bridges. Mikal Bridges is my Defensive Player of the Year. Just playing every game of the season, I know like people are going to make jokes like, oh, participation award. Like I know a lot of people did that with Jokic last year when he beat out Embiid, partially because he played more games. But Bridges, like being that Iron Man, being that consistent defensive force on this team, guarding the opposing team's best player almost every single night, unless it was like a Jokic or an Embiid or a Cat, unless it was really a center, Bridges was on the opposing team's best player every single night, and he was giving them so many problems. I can think of games like against the Warriors where Mikal Bridges really locked up Steph Curry, for example. There's just so many great moments I can think of with Bridges being a big perimeter threat, lengthy. He's got the ability to block shots at the rim as well, get that contest, and I think just the way that he transformed and kept this Suns defense afloat despite pieces moving in and out, 8 missing a lot of time, Bridges really locked things down for that team, and so I'm going to go with him for my Defensive Player of the Year. I think Marcus Smart is also a phenomenal pick. The Celtics having that great defensive turnaround, he is the big reason why he was probably their best defensive player. And a lot of times the Defensive Player of the Year is the best defensive player on the best defensive team, in which case is probably Marcus Smart. Just for me, I think having Robert Williams in there as well, Jason Tatum, I feel like I think I like Bridges maybe a little bit more, but Smart I think is a really good pick. Same with Giannis. Rob Williams, if he didn't miss that last portion of the season, I think he could have gotten a lot of consideration as well. Rudy Gobert, of course, is always going to be in that conversation. And a guy like Draymond Green, I know there are other names that I'm not mentioning, but overall, those were kind of my candidates, and I think Mikal Bridges is the one that I'm settling on. If I forgot any names, I apologize. Bam Adebayo. That is another name I want to mention. I think he also really does belong in this race, being a great physical force on that Heat team. When he wasn't playing, it was really noticed that he wasn't there because of his impact defensively. So he's a guy that will probably finish top 3, 4 in this race, and I think that's deservingly so. Finally, the last pick is the MVP award, and this is one that has been probably one of the hottest issues in the NBA over the course of this whole season. Of course, you've got the 3 guys, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think you can go wrong with picking any 3 of those guys. Jokic kind of has the statistics. Embiid kind of has a little bit of the narrative of like not having Ben Simmons and kind of taking over, and also a lot of great statistics as well. Giannis has like the defensive play, like he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's got the best team out of these 3. There are so many different arguments and ways you can look at this award that really, if you pick any 3 of these guys, I don't think you're wrong. For me, eventually, I think I've settled on Nikola Jokic. Just the way that he carried that team. I know they're the 6th seed. That has been really my biggest thing. And I think if Jokic's team was just a couple spots higher, this would have been a no-brainer for me, that Jokic would have been the MVP. But I do think that the 6-seededness isn't really a result of him. I think it's really a result of missing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., which kind of does speak to Jokic's value, that he was able to bring a roster without its 2nd and 3rd best players to the 6th seed in a loaded Western Conference. He was only a couple wins behind the other guys who were the 4 and 3 seeds, so it's not even like it's that big of a gap. It's not like he's like 5, 6 games back. It's like 1 or 2. And so I personally don't see the seeding thing as that much of an issue. He was so dominant over the course of this year. Playmaking, scoring, rebounding, first player to have a 2,000, 1,500 season, which I don't take a lot of value in, but I do think it really does speak to how dominant he was, how efficient he was really this season. He had so many great like moments, game winners. He did a little bit of everything for this team this season. He stepped it up defensively as well and carried a Nuggets team that really has no business being at the 6th seed right now in what is a loaded Western Conference to where they are now. So Nikola Jokic is my pick to go back to back. Joel Embiid, I think he 100% could win this award as well. What he did this season, he was dominant, both offensively and defensively, missing Ben Simmons for that long period of time and keeping this team afloat in a really big way. So many crazy performances I can think of, especially that 50-point game against the Magic, which was huge. One of the most efficient 50-point games of all time. He's a guy that I think he should win an MVP award at some point in his career. I think it'll be a travesty if he doesn't. I just don't know if this is his year. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, always is going to be in that conversation. In my opinion, the best player in the world. He had a great season. He was dominant offensively and defensively, leading the Bucks to the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, tied for the 2 seed with the Celtics, but losing that tiebreaker. A Bucks team that dealt with a lot of injuries. No Brook Lopez for a lot of the season. A lot of other decent role players were in and out of the lineup. Drew Holiday missed some time at the beginning of the season. There was just a lot that Giannis had to help keep afloat, and so what he did, I don't think should go unnoticed. I wouldn't be surprised if any 3 of these guys win, but Nikola Jokic is the guy that I'm going to go with. So those are my NBA award picks. Like I said, some of them might change even tomorrow, or like the second I upload this video, they might change. But for right now, I'm feeling pretty good about them. So let me know your picks down below in the comment section so that I can kind of hear what you have to say. I'm really excited about this award season. I can't wait to see who wins. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.